vibe, getting it. That's because Mr. Earl back there, IntellectualRadio.com's producer, is making sure that we got some good music for Rick's Room coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rick's Room. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for swinging by again with us here at 8 o'clock on IntellectualRadio.com. And iHeartRadio and iTunes station. We appreciate you swinging by for Hump Day. Shout out to, we just started this, the hashtag IR Hump Day, Intellectual Radio Hump Day crew. Shout out to all y'all that got shows on Wednesday. But it is Wednesday, and it's time for us to kick it, to sit back, relax, and have a good conversation like we normally do on Wednesdays. Catch us here on Facebook. If you're tuning in with us on Facebook, we're right there on Facebook. Hey, Facebook, what's going on? And if you're watching us by way of Intellectual Radio or YouTube, we see y'all over there. What's going on, y'all? What's up? What's going on? Happy Hump Day. Happy Wednesday. I got a great panel with me today, guys. If you all are tuning in for this, you know it's Tuesday, so that means it's time for Dear Black People. Excuse me, it's the second Wednesday in the month, so it's time for Dear Black People, and we got a conversation today, a couple of different topics, so we just gonna call it Let's Talk. We got to get our grown on, you know what I mean? It's 2018, and it's time to get some things in order for us as a community. And I understand that a lot of my viewers might not be of our diverse backgrounds. So we appreciate you tuning in. And if you have some things that you want to share or talk about and comment on, or it happens in your community as well, please, by all means, feel free to jump into the conversation with us. But this conversation that we're having today is for the community. It's for the Black people that we need to be aware of and cognizant of. So the first thing I want to do is get a chance to introduce some of my guests here that I'm really excited to have here on the panel. First, I'm going to start with someone who has been on the show and in the room before. She is back hanging out with us. Y'all, last time we had her on the show, she was working on her dissertation defense. She has finally completed it. So the doctoral candidate, Miss Marlena Prater, is in the building. She's in the room with us hanging out. What's going on, Miss Marlena?
What's up? I'm great.
Yeah, right. How does it feel that it's all said and done? It's all over with?
It feels amazing and agreed to be conferred, so I can now be officially doctor.
Right.
It's amazing that it's done.
Yo, we can't call it doctor quite yet, but listen, she's waiting for the degree to be conferred. So for those of you that don't know, what does that mean when the degree is conferred?
That means they got to check and make sure I paid.
As we were just talking about Sally, may got to get her money too, you know what I mean? So whatever.
Yes. And then my chair has to turn in everything, and they have to make sure that it was approved and that I passed. And so that should be done by the end of this month. By
the end of this month, we'll be able to call you officially Dr. Marlena Prater. Well, congratulations to you, and cheers as well. We are so glad that you were able to stop by and hang out with us now that you got your whole dissertation all done and ready to go.
Amen. Hallelujah.
And also we have Miss Natasha Robinson here with us, Esquire, who is joining us for the first time. What's going on, Miss Natasha?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for swinging by the room.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name, you heard it, is Natasha Robinson. I am a licensed attorney. I specialize in criminal defense. And currently, I am also teaching at Al Raby School for Community and Environment. As a teacher, I teach high school students, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. It's an honors program. It starts off with criminal law, civil and constitutional law, and then it goes into criminology, and then a dual credit course where you can get college credit while in high school. And I've been doing that now for 6 years. Is what I specialize in. That's what I'm passionate about.
Okay. So shout out to Al Raby and all the folks, so all the students and parents that might
Raiders.
Be tuning in. Oh, is that who they are? That's
yes,
the Raiders?
Yes.
The Raiders?
Yes.
Okay. Well, shout out to the Raiders there. If you are tuning in, you might not be. It might be bedtime for you, because if you have, is it? So what do the students call you? Is it?
It's Miss Robinson.
Miss Robinson, right. So you might be able to catch Miss Robinson on for just the last hour before it's time for you to get to bed and be in her class tomorrow. But thank you so much for swinging by, ladies. I appreciate it. While we talk about a couple of things that we need to get out to the community. Before we get into that, y'all, listen. It's Wednesday night here in Chicago, and generally in January, it's a little cold outside, but we got a warm-up going on.
Yeah.
I think here in the Midwest and the Northeast, got a little bit of a warm-up. We had about 50 degrees in January. I blame the government, but, whatever, to each his own, but I'll take it as long as we can have it and hang on to it. I'm for it. So if you are enjoying this 50-degree weather outside and watching us via Facebook or YouTube or IntellectualRadio.com, thank you so much for joining us. And if you happen to be listening on Spreaker because you driving out somewhere with the windows down, that's fine. Let everybody else hear that you listen to Rick's Room as well. And feel free to share this on your page as well so that your friends can get involved with the conversation and they can give us a comment. Or if you don't want to comment and you want to talk to us directly, give us a call at 708-223-8953. That's the number to give us a call and talk to us about your comments and your feelings about the topics that we have today. Before I get into the conversation, I want to do a quick thing that I forgot to do last week. Forgive me for not doing this last week, but this week is the most important week to do it. January is a pretty big Black Greek-led organization, BGLO, Fraternity Sorority Founders Month. All right. There's a lot of organizations that were founded in January. And last week, I did not get a chance to shout out Happy Founders Day to the men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated on January 5th, celebrating their 107th anniversary. I think we're pretty much in the Elite 8, because the Divine 9, they're not going to make 100 for a while. But for the rest of us, we now made it over 100 years old. Yesterday, though, was the big day. Everybody who's following me knows, and all of my big family friends know that yesterday was the big day for Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out and go mom to all of my fraternity brothers celebrating 104 years of brotherhood, scholarship, and service in the community. Our cause still speeds on its way, gentlemen. Happy Founders Day to all my frat brothers, Go Mob and Blue 5. Now, so I think we'll go ahead. Well, before I get into this, again, cheers on Wednesday. We made it through half the week. We only got just a couple more days to go until the weekend. Make sure you got your adult beverage to hang out with us too as well. Again, y'all might know that I drink sparkling on a regular basis because I like it. But we always got something to celebrate, right? So we celebrate and we kicking it in the room. We invite you to have your adult beverage and hang out with us too as well. Is being produced by, and shout out to Mr. Al Young from Al Young Enterprises, always making sure that we're looking good, smooth, and right. He's got all three clients up here, you know what I mean, making sure that we're looking good and sounding good for you as well. And if you need to get some, artistic development, some consultation done for your look and appeal, give them a call. You can reach them at 773-220-9869 or shoot him an email at Al Young, the Roman numeral 3. So that's Al Young, III. I say this every week. It's Roman numeral 3. Al Young, III at me.com. That's Al Young Enterprises. Whatever you do, do it with passion. With my friend here, the almost, or at least we'll say that we can say the what is it?
Candidate.
The PhD candidate? Yes. Is that we can do the candidate for? Okay. The
Dr.
PhD
Prater.
candidate.
I was going to say Dr. Prater.
I want to call it Dr. Prater so bad. I really do. Like, it's just going to slip out one of these times. It's going to slide out, Dr. Prater. But the doctoral candidate, Miss Marlena Prater. So you had a couple of things that you wanted to talk to the community about, some of the points that you're finding, that you have been finding in your profession, and we wanted to make sure we got a chance to bring to all of you all today. So the first thing we wanted to get into is what and the PhD candidate, almost Dr. Marlena Prater, likes to call the isms.
Yes.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the isms. Let's start there. What are the isms?
What are the isms? So the isms are some of my favorite things to debate or teach clients about. Basically, what they are is anything that has to do with a system of power. So they deal with class, race, sexuality, etc. That are typically highlighted are racism, sexism, heterosexism, and so that is just defined as isms are usually labeled by the dominant culture that has power, that makes the rules. So with sexism, males have power. With racism, whites have power. With heterosexism, it's heterosexuals that have power. I'm really passionate about this particular subject. One, because those systems of power are the reason that a lot of us are marginalized and oppressed. It's the reason that a lot of us experience trauma, any kind of stress, anxiety. And a lot of times people come into my office because they've been dealing with something particularly related to those particular areas.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about, like, let's look at, in our community, right? We talk about, because this is Dear Black People, right? So we talk about racism. How is there racism in the Black community? Like, how is that a thing?
Interesting that you bring that up.
Is it?
It is.
Because it happens.
Well, not so much.
Okay.
When the thing about systems of power is that to be the dominant party in terms of handing out some kind of ism if you don't hold power. And so Blacks can be, they can have biases, but in terms of power, we don't have power as a race. So a lot of scholars, I'll say, believe that we can't be racist because we hold no power in terms of our race. So a good example of that would be if we were going up for a job. We have all this experience. We're doctors.
Shout out.
Right.
Like, that was well done.
We go in there and we're in a position and we're up against a white counterpart, or to get that position over our white counterpart simply because we're Black.
Okay.
And so our lack of power means that it's more difficult for us to exercise oppression. If we were out here oppressing white folks left and right, then I would have a discussion with you about Blacks being racist. But again, because we lack power, it's very difficult for us to exhibit that.
Now, do you think, though, that we have this? I was just talking to somebody about this who was actually Puerto Rican, and he was mentioning that this happens within the community too. You feel like that racism, let's say, that happens within our community between, say, light skin and dark skin, right? Or shout out to the medium brown folks that are out there. Yes, medium brown. Right. Some of us are just medium brown. We're in the middle. Yes. But what does that look like? Is that considered a form of racism within our community?
So that absolutely is a form of prejudice. Again, I would consider it. It has its own.
Oh, that's that is. Okay, got it. All right.
And colorism definitely, it takes place in Latina cultures, and also in the African American culture, where you have light skin versus dark skin, good hair versus bad hair. Anytime I have someone come in my office and say something like, "Oh, you have good hair," I'm like, "What is that? This is the hair that grows off of my head, right. Just like the hair that grows off of your head. If you learn how to manage it, it's good. If you take care of it, it's good." So yeah, that's colorism.
Okay. And again, shout out to Al Young from Al Young Enterprises, making sure hair looks good as well as style.
Taking care of healthy.
Y'all might have saw last week I had a little bit of extra hair up here. I was trying something different, but I shaved it down a little bit. That's all that happened. So anyway, so then when we move into sexism, right, within our community, I'm wondering what is the impact that sexism is having as for us as a culture, for black people as a culture?
Absolutely. I think for us as a culture, it's when you look at racism and then you look at slavery, I should say, and you look at that system of power and what it taught us as a people to believe about ourselves, then sexism comes into play. What happens with that system is that you have people generations after slavery is abolished who you kind of have the Black man against the Black woman in a sense. And some of that was by design. It was keep Black men out of the home because we want Black women to be dominant, to feel like they don't need their men, wrongfully imprisoning Black men so that they're separated from their families and they are deemed useless to their communities. So I think some of the sexism that we see within our community comes from, it's kind of like a byproduct of slavery in a sense. And then some of it just comes from Black men have more power being male. And so they can exercise that power on Black women. An interesting thing that I learned in school was in that domestic violence, there are higher incidents in Black households and with Black women than in other communities, and go out into the world every day and they are reminded that they're Black, they're less than. But when they come home, they can have some power and they can exercise it. And if they're not well balanced, or their well-being is off in one way or another, they can exercise that power against the women in their lives. And thus we have sexism, domestic violence, etc.
That's funny because, for me, I grew up in a family of all females, like all women in my family. I had my mother, I had my aunt, I had, my grandmother, and I grew up around, and I got 3 sisters. Like I just grew up around women, and I've been exposed to what we in our community love to coin the term of strong Black women, right? Strong Black women, and we're made up of a culture of strong Black women, and we push strong Black women, and that women have to be, 5 billion times stronger than their male counterparts. In a society, in an environment of sexism, what are some of the things that women are doing or women can do to ensure that they're not being victims of that sexism?
Yeah. Speak your truth, as the great Oprah said not too long ago.
I didn't see it. So let's not talk about it yet.
I won't spill the beans.
Yeah, right. I've been seeing all kinds of posts about it,
but yeah, use your voice and speak your truth. How to protect yourself. I really wish that we lived in a community or a world, where we taught people not to harm others. So we taught don't rape instead of don't get raped. But unfortunately, we don't live in that kind of environment. And so women have to be conscious of their environments, how to protect themselves. They have to be empowered to speak their truth and use their voice to advocate for themselves and also for other women. I think that's the position that I'm in right now as a professional. That's why I went back and got a doctorate, so that I could be a voice in that sense, and speak out and help people work through these kinds of issues.
Wow. Well, I'm going to say thank you for going back to get hit that, so that you can participate in supporting the community there. And so it looks like I'm having a little bit of difficulty seeing some of the comments, but if you all are seeing some of the comments that are coming up, by all means jump in and read a few of those if you have some questions there that might want to get answered as well. Let me ask you this now. You mentioned a term that I don't know if anyone else out there is familiar with this term or not, but heterosexism. Start with, what does that look like? What is heterosexism?
So that looks like, if you're thinking about in the media, when you turn on your common TV shows, more times than not, you see heterosexual couples being represented. When you open up magazines, you see if 2 people are in love, it's a man and a woman. Just out in society, in general conversations and rules and regulations, and they're slowly starting to change, but it's based on a heterosexual lifestyle. So the assumption is that everybody is heterosexual, which we know is not true.
Shout out to the LGBTQ community.
So it's just an environment where heterosexuals are dominant. They make the rules. They have the power.
Now, in again, because this is a show that I want to target to us having the conversations that we need to have in our community. How do you feel about you personally, and or what are some of the steps that you've taken or things that you've done when you see the advertisements out there, when you see the push for the heterosexual couples and environment that we are portraying in the Black community, and then even feel like that's bringing down the Black household, right? And not promoting or not acknowledging even the fact that the LGBTQ community exists amongst Black people, that there are Black gays out there that we're so misrepresented of. There aren't those I guess advertisements out there that show that the Black gay couples and the strong Black men or Black women who are together, who are surviving. What are some of the things that you've been able to be exposed or partner up with or be a part of to help with that?
Yeah. One of the main things that I do is I became an advocate, which just means that I am a supporter of the community. And so when I see hateful language or hateful media, I try to make sure that I speak out against that.
Okay.
That I do is, and also in my personal life, like I try to practice what I preach. So I don't walk around bashing people for living a lifestyle that is not the same as mine, or that maybe my neighbor disagrees with, etc. is educate. I take as much time as possible to educate clients, which is kind of tricky because if I have them say something that is negative, that would be considered prejudice. I try to teach them that that's not healthy. That's not healthy language for you. It's not healthy language for the person you're speaking of. And I just try to educate them on what sexuality is, to teach them that, people don't just generally, some people do choose to their sexuality protocol. But it's not just something that you just wake up one day and go, I think I'm going to be this today. So it is part of who you are. It is, are born that way. That's something that I do believe. And some of it is just through encounters with individuals that I've worked with who are, without a shadow of a doubt, they're like, yes, I was born like this. And I believe them. So I try to educate people. And then when I see folks that either they're misinformed about or they are trolling or whatever you want to call it on the internet.
The trolls.
The infamous trolls. I try to make sure that I speak out against that kind of stuff, and I encourage others to have these types of conversations.
Okay. And that's important, right? Those conversations. And again, this is why we do Dear Black People. And this is why we have these conversations or these topics, so that we are able to discuss them openly with the people that are exposed to this. So looks like we got a caller calling in to hang out with us in Rick's room. What's going on? Who are we talking to?
Mel.
Hey, what's so for those of y'all don't know, this is my Uncle Mel, who's calling all the way from California. So we got people all the way in Cali, Washington, down in San Diego. What's going on, Uncle Mel? What's happening?
I love your show. I love what you do. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
I'm so proud of you.
I appreciate it. You jumping in on a conversation today, Uncle Mel? What's going on?
Wait a minute. I'm getting a delay on the computer.
That's what happens when you call in to radio shows and you got the radio up or the computer up, and you get that feedback as well.
Okay, I know you got a show to do, so you go ahead.
All right, Uncle. Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. I know y'all got some warm weather out there, so y'all.
We do. It was 75 today.
Well, we're in the 50. We're in the 50, so we can compete finally. My shout out to Uncle Mel that's been paying attention and watching the show and being a great support over there in California. He gives us grief all the time because he's enjoying the Southern California weather, blah, blah, blah.
Must be nice.
Right, exactly. It must be nice. Some of the things, Marlena, that you mentioned, I think, give way to our next topic with you that is big for you as well, and that's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I think in our community, what we don't do enough of is supporting and promoting and pushing the fact that mental health is nothing more than just the same type of health that we need to exude with our physicalness, our physical bodies. The brain is very similar. In your what you do in your day to day, right? You're out there, you're advocating, and you have clients that you're seeing. When it comes to mental health, what's your I guess draw for appealing to the Black community about how important mental health is?
That's a great question.
Right. Every now and then I try. Right?
You did good. One of the things that I try to stress with clients is the fact that because we are part of a marginalized community, that we need to take extra care in managing our own mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And so people come to me, particularly with some of the things we talked about, being the strong Black woman, or if I have someone who's a member of the LGBTQ community saying, I'm dealing with oppression in my household. My mom thinks I'm cursed and all these other things. I try to encourage them to continue advocating for themselves and make sure that they're well.
Mm-hmm.
And that they seek wholeness, but also to encourage those around them to, jump on the bandwagon. You're ill.
Jump on the bandwagon. You are ill.
Yeah, people who spread hate, people who swear that the reason that we have so many LGBTQ members in the Black community is because there's some agenda, and spew hate about that. You need to sit down in somebody's couch. I take Blue Cross Blue Shield if anybody's looking for a therapist.
There you go. Nice plug. Well done. We'll get to that too.
Yes. But you need to go seek out some kind of mental health, whether it's sitting in front of a counselor, professional, excuse me, whether it's going to some kind of spiritual setting, either a church or, for people who practice different religions, meditating, prayer, whatever it is. It's so imperative for us to focus on improving our own mental well-being so that we can be stronger and be more cohesive as a people.
Right. And listen, I've been having a little difficulty for those of you, especially on Facebook, that are watching, getting the Facebook up. So I'm just going to steal Marlena's phone here and kind of go through some of the things, because she's spewing all kinds of knowledge, and I didn't want to interrupt her and have her look down. But Lord Baldwin, I see you in all the comments that you have. Thank you for your participation and discussion. Lord Baldwin is very big on promoting an understanding and teaching the understanding of and acceptance of in our community, the LGBTQ, and understanding that we do exist in the Black community. So shout out to Lord Baldwin for all the comments. If you all are paying attention and joining into the discussion as well, go ahead and talk to him about it. And Lord Baldwin, if you want to call in and share some of that as well, 708-223-8953 is the number for any and everybody that wants to call in or continue your conversation here on Facebook. Rachel Walker, thank you so much for your comment as well. She said this is a great, she's loving the dialogue, content, and platform, and creating for discussions like this to take place. And again, Rachel, thank you for that. This is what we need to do in our community, and I want to make sure that Rick's Room, we're having this conversation here in our room as well, with some great people that are able to have a conversation about this as well. Afina Shakur said, "Hey, Ms. Robinson, apparently she must know you."
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
that was my former principal at Hearst High School.
Oh, was it really?
Yes.
So that's my cousin. She was she was on the show not too long ago, a couple days ago. She's a part of one of our sponsors. Yeah, it is. That's what we do at Rick's Room, right? We create moments for everybody to come around and have a conversation and know people and do some networking too as well. Real last thing, Marlena, too, I want to talk to you about when it comes to mental health. And she said if you need a couch, there's a couch right back here. If you want to come in Rick's Room, we'll get by that time. I'm sure Dr. Prater will be able to talk to you on the couch. Right. There's a couple of couches for you to lay out and get some of those hates. Stress.
Get the hate up out your heart.
Exactly, get it up out of. But last thing I want to ask you, Marlena, is what are you seeing in the Black community that differentiates, or that's the difference when it comes to men versus women, Black men versus Black women, when in regards to mental health?
Yeah, are not as eager to seek out help as Black women. One thing that also is important to point out is that a lot of times corrections facilities end up being mental health centers.
Wow.
Especially for African American men, because they're disproportionately represented there. So unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I have a lot of amazing Black women that come to me for assistance, a few Black men. So it's growing.
We gotta do better, brothers. We gotta do better.
You do. So Black women are taking charge of their mental health. They're calling. I have, especially millennials, which is really surprising. I have millennials calling me all the time saying, "I'm having trouble with adulting. Like, can I talk to you?" And I'm like, absolutely. Like, that's amazing.
We're all having troubles with adulting. If you happen to be in a well, never mind. We'll talk about that later. But anyway. So.
Yes, exactly. So they're taking charge of their lives. I have, a pretty large age range. But people women are really stepping up and saying, I have these things going on, or this happened to me in my past and I want to get help. And I would love to see that happening more with Black men, because I think we silence Black men. One, patriarchy, sexism. Mm-hmm. It teaches men that they're not supposed to show their emotions. And because of that, likely to go out and seek help for what's going on with them. But they're experiencing a lot of pain as well. Mm-hmm. And they need to have a safe space to expose that.
Got you. Well, listen, it looks like Dershawn also said mental health is a big issue in the Black community because of fear and egos. So true. And we got to get past that, y'all. We got to get past that. So if in the event you are looking to seek out some mental health to talk about your isms that you might be dealing with, Marlena, how can someone get a hold of you?
All right. So I currently work at the private practice known as HELP. It's located in Bronzeville. But if you just call 630-660-5507, you can reach my confidential voicemail and set up an appointment.
Okay, well, we'll get that out there too, the folks that are watching, so that they can give you a shout. And hey, I'm a fan of mental health awareness and making sure that you take the time to get your mental health in order. So definitely check out Marlena as well. And I appreciate you sharing all of your views. Looks like we might have a caller that might be something geared towards you before we change topics here. Who's on the line there calling into Rick's room? I'm sorry, this is who?
Lord Baldwin.
Lord Baldwin actually gave us a call in. What's going on, sir? Over by way of New Jersey.
Yeah, my name is Lincoln, of course, but had I known I was going to be on your show, I would have switched over to my other account so I could be more professional. But I got caught up in the conversation, and I just started commenting. The lady right next to you is so sharp. And, when she mentioned the isms and how isms is about power, that's something I've been saying that many people just don't really understand. Just everything she's been saying is just excellent. So I'm just giving a little background. I work with college-going students in the city of Newark. They go to college anywhere in the world. And what we do is career development. So we get them ready for life after college. But it's not just a typical resume writing, just for sex. We do that too. But a lot of it now we realize, and I shouldn't say now, but we realize in our program, ready for college, unless they're mentally and emotionally ready for life. And many of them are coming with so much baggage, so much damage. And to talk about resume writing just for success and how to comport yourself at the job interview and all the other things without addressing the damage from 5, 6, and 7 years old. And it's sad because most of the funding at even the college level or at the pre-K to third grade level, which is where all the work needs to happen at pre-K to third grade, is really centered in high school, which is counterproductive because the high school years is where they go through all the chemical changes and they ain't listening to nobody. And if you ain't established a foundation with them, then it's hard to even. And it's almost like they don't want the students to do better. But at the same time, I also know that most of the work needs to be done at the home. Mm-hmm. And all that will be able to put us into anyone's home. But I really think that what you've been saying, listen, I'm sorry I don't remember your name.
That's Marlena.
Marlena.
Almost Dr. Prater.
I forget Rick's names too, so don't worry.
It's true. It does happen. I figure it is all the time, Lincoln.
But no, I'm not going to take too much time, but I just want to say that everything you've been saying has been, and more people need to hear it. Even the part about racism and how blacks can be racist because systematic power, not power in the immediate moment, but the systematic power that isms are about. And I think that we miss that part about going racism out there all the time, just constantly diminishes the real definition of racism. And it kind of takes away our ability to say, no, this is what real racism is. Right. And so, I'm glad that you're on the show. I'm glad that Rick knows you. I need to connect with you at some point just to share with you and maybe build with you as well with my program. And I don't know, we're going to do something. But, it's hard to find people who understand, who are on the same level, on the same page as you. And so when you do find them, you got to jump on them, and just say, don't let me go because I need you to ride this wave with me.
Well, listen, first of all, thank you so much for calling in, Lord Baldwin / Lincoln. I appreciate it, man. And next time you're in Chicago, make sure you reach out to us and give us a holler. We can maybe set up some time to link up and, even get, by then again, the Dr. Marlena Prater out to hang out with us too as well. And all of the wonderful things that you have been and are doing in the Newark community. Shout out to you, sir. And I appreciate you giving us a call in. Thank you very much, man. And listen, enjoy that warm weather y'all got going on over there. I'll be back over to Jersey soon enough.
Temporary.
Right, I know it's only temporary. It's like here in Chicago. It's only temporary, but I got you. Enjoy it while you can.
All right, take care.
Thanks for calling in, sir. I'll talk to you soon. Bob, commenting on our show too. I mean, in the live feed there. If you have a comment or suggestion, or if you want to talk about the topics that we're talking about, give us a call 708-223-8953. Before I jump over to Natasha, I want to make sure that we talk about an opportunity that I'm going to try out here very soon. So it's warm here in Chicago, but it's going to get cold again, right? This heat wave is very temporary. As we know, the temperature and the environment and climate, fluctuates, especially this time of year. I don't know if it's ever been 55 in January. It might. I'm sure we'll check somebody's record, but
what we do.
Don't be fooled because this is pneumonia weather, to be quite honest. But Elsa will be bringing herself right on back here to Chicago. So if you're looking for a getaway and can't find the time to plan a vacation, check out DLP Serenity Travel and let them get your vacation planned and taken care of. They got packages to places like Aruba and the Bahamas and so many more. Take advantage of their all-inclusive deals for a steal. Contact DLP Serenity Travel by visiting their website at www.dlpserenitytravel.com to schedule a consultation. That's DLP Serenity Travel, where it's all about you. www.dlpserenitytravel.com. I'm going to check them out so I can get out of Chicago and actually travel abroad. Like I have not been out of the States. Don't judge me. I appreciate that.
But you need to get that passport.
I know I got to get the passport. Stop putting me on blast like that. They don't know I got a passport yet, but I'm getting one. All right, I'm getting one. So let's turn it over to Miss Natasha Robinson, who's joining us, Miss Natasha Robinson Esquire, joining us here to talk about a few things. First off, we're going to get involved with the conversation about elections, right? Election season is coming up, and it's important for us to be knowledgeable about, especially our local county judiciary elections, right? Yes. So let's talk about some of what that looks like, Natasha.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say again, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure being here. I did want to just take about 2 minutes, Dr. Prater said, as it relates to mental health.
Yeah.
I believe at least it's been in my experience as an attorney. I've been an attorney now for 19 years. Criminal defense. And one of the trends that I have seen is that as it relates to mental health, as Dr. Prater said, the largest mental health facility right now is our correctional system.
Really?
And so we have a lot of situations where those who have mental health issues, they are not diagnosed with those issues until after they're already incarcerated. So then what happens is that when they are treated, quote unquote treated, it usually does not rise up to the level of being exonerated from any type of crime. So what happens is that they then go from either the jail to a prison if they're charged with a misdemeanor or a felony, but the underlying issue is never addressed. So then you have recidivism. You have defendants keep coming through the system. And we have to realize that mental health is still a public health issue. It needs to be addressed. It does not need to be erased or honored or hashtagged. It needs to be something where people are treated not just for the condition or the symptom, but the underlying issue, so that when they come out and when they engage in what's called restorative justice, then they can be empowered with jobs, with education, not just with labels or the continuation of being marginalized. Mm-hmm. That was my first point. The second point is as it relates to counseling, when you were talking about difficulty with people wanting to get therapists. It is a huge stigma, particularly in the African-American community. As it relates to me representing my clients, I have been their counselor. Not a licensed therapist, but a counselor. And the reason why they were able to share with me is because of that relationship of connection, where they were able to begin to trust me. And so then my clients' couches, if you will, they would move from place to place. We have couches at the barbershop. We have couches at church. We have couches talking just to our boyfriends or our girlfriends. And so we need to realize that although these are good people in whom we can and converse with, they are still not rising up to the level of licensed therapists. And that it is not about just being reactionary, it's being proactive. If you take your car in to get service, you have no problem coming in every 3,000 miles to get your oil changed. What about your soul? How are you getting that treated? What do you need to do to make sure that you are still safe in these very trying times? So those were the two things that I wanted to hit as it relates to Dr. Prater.
Speaking of couches at church, shout out to West Point Missionary Baptist Church, where Dr. L. Bernard Jakes is that pastor that probably has some couches somewhere. I'm sure that couch is somewhere. If you might need to get some spiritual counsel, go over there, hang out with us over there at West Point Missionary Baptist Church. Now, Tasha, talk to us a little bit about we moved into 2018. We got some elections coming up. Specifically, you and I talked about and conversed about what the importance of the judicial elections, right? Because we got these practices, right? What are some of the practices? Because I know some of y'all do this too, because I do it too. So, Tasha, talk to to us about what some of those practices are and better practices to have.
So it has been my experience, as well as when I've had conversations with people. When we go into the polling booth, we pretty much know who we're going to vote for as it relates to maybe an alderman, a governor, a president, senator, things of that nature. But when it comes to judges, there are several trends. And this is by no means saying that everyone is doing this, but some of us are doing it. Some of us go in and vote on our gut and say, well, they sound, enter here, Italian, Black, smart, from the hood, keeping it real. And some of us go in and say, well, grandmama told me to vote for this person, so I'm gonna vote for this person. And that's all well and good. However, we have to do due diligence and make sure that we are proactive in our education and not waiting for someone to tell us who to vote for. When you're talking about systems of power, the lack of voting is still voting. Not to vote, but in essence, someone has hijacked your vote and is now speaking truth to power and putting someone in place that may not work for your particular community. So we have to make sure that when we go into these ballot boxes and when we go into the polls, we take in information that we have gathered ourselves, information from different sources that are out there that people just may not know that those are those sources. Some of those sources include word of mouth. That is still a good reputation. All you have to do is have a conversation. I know we're so connected on social media, but if you take about 20 seconds and ask someone, hey, do you know who's running for judge? That will spark up a conversation. You can get information from a civic organization, religious organizations, community organizations. You can get words or rather information from the candidates themselves. A lot of judges that are running right now, they have websites where you can go to. Now, they can't tell you necessarily how they would rule, but they can tell you who they are, what has their life been as it relates to service, and why you should vote for them. Another place that you can go to besides their websites or their social media pages is local newspapers. You have a lot of newspapers that will give endorsements. Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago Tribune, Daily Herald are just 3 examples of newspapers that will say, we endorse this particular person. Now, that does not mean you take that endorsement with a blind eye. You have to know who owns those newspapers. Are they people that usually endorse liberal candidates, conservative candidates, and then you see if the candidates' issues align with yours. Another place that you can go is candidate forums. A lot of churches, a lot of community organizations have candidate forums. Well, they will have the people sitting at a table similar to this, and they will have a moderator, and that moderator will ask questions for judicial candidates, and then they will make their statements. But we don't really pay attention because it's not a concert. It's not a free, if you come in, you get this. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is that we can't just sit around and complain if we have contributed to the problem. When we do not know information, or rather, let me take that back. When we know information but don't activate our power in it, then we are getting to be co-conspirators in our own demise. We can't blame anybody else except ourselves. Now, for those who don't have that information, that's why we're here, is to kind of lead you in a direction. This is not the only direction, but some direction that'll let you know. Take some time and research these judges. You can also go to different bar associations websites. Bar associations, there are a number of them in the state of Illinois. You have bar associations. They do not endorse judicial candidates, but they do have a interview system. And that interview system, they ask questions that are about the judicial candidate's experience, their knowledge of the law, their temperament in the courtroom, their fairness, their integrity, and then they give a rating. It can be highly qualified or recommended, or not recommended or qualified. If a judicial candidate does not speak with the Bar Association, they automatically get a rating of not recommended, not because they're inadequate, but because the Bar Association has not had a chance to even have conversation with them. And that's not any, dismissal to that candidate. They're just letting you know, we can't comment on this person as a Bar Association. We can't give it as a not endorsement, but we can't say whether we recommend them or not. Right.
Haven't got a chance to talk to them. Exactly.
And that's the candidate's right. They want to go. I've served a couple times on judicial screening evaluations, and the person sits down and they talk about what they would do in certain situations, their caseload in terms of cases, people that they've represented, not by name, but more so just different legal issues, what they would do in certain situations. And then from there, the bar associations get together, especially sure I say their name right, Alliance of Bar Association.
Okay.
So that's 11 bar associations that come together. And it was founded by Cook County Bar Association, which is the oldest African-American bar association in the country. Really? They are right here in Chicago.
We got to get that information out there too.
Yes.
Did you catch that? Did you catch that? Say it again.
Yes. So Cook County Bar Association, they are the largest African-American association. And it's made up of lawyers and judges. And so it's a national organization, but they have definitely a chapter here. My uncle was once a past president of a Cook County Bar Association. So it has a rich legacy. You also have other organizations that come together and then they come up with these recommendations. You also have the Chicago Bar Association. You have the Illinois State Bar Association. So these are just associations that they're not perfect. They're made of imperfect people. They come together, they make a recommendation. And as Black Sheep said, you can get with this or you can get with that. It just really depends on what it is, you know. It just really depends on what it is that you are looking for. But whatever it is you're looking for, you can take that information with you into the polling place. So when you are looking at the ballot, you're not just saying, okay, eeny, meeny, miny, I'm going to pick this one. Or let me skip over actions altogether, because what happens is that you do not want the first time you meet this judicial candidate when they are about to sentence your cousin or when they are about to interfere or oversee a civil case where you are involved in an accident. Sometimes we meet people all the time in distress instead of being proactive and learning about who they are. And pretty much people just want judges to be fair. They want them to be knowledgeable. When I was talking with one of my uncles who's a judge, I'm gonna say shout out to Uncle BB. He knows who that is. He started out with the state's attorney's office, and then he went to being an associate, and then he presided over all types of cases. And he said pretty much the word that he got was people just wanted to be fair. Even those that appeared in front of him when he was at juvenile court and then when he went to 26 in California. People want fairness. And when we're talking about the systems of power, unfortunately, and other people of color, really, they come into the gate already with a lame foot. Coming into a situation where your race or your gender or what have you is already, keeping you down. So this information, we know that knowledge is power, but accurate knowledge, once you get that knowledge, you have to act on it. Right. Because if you're just waiting for someone to save you, you're going to remain unsaved.
Let me. So Ms. Carol Jakes, shout out to First Lady, said Natasha is dropping knowledge. Take the advice of Dr. Fred and talk to a professional. Look, she's pumping us all. But listen, I got a question for you, because there's somebody like me, knock on wood, and I'm fortunate enough to not have to had situation where I needed to get in front of a judge, and be in a distressed situation, right? But I'm at the voting polls and I'm like, I don't know these people, I don't know how much interaction or engagement I'm really going to have with them. So that has been my mindset. Thank you for sharing all of the knowledge that you have about best practices. Talk to me about, because here's where I can be of an effective citizen when it comes to the judiciary candidates. How are the laws made? What roles do the judges play even and when it comes to how criminal laws are made? Like you and I talked about the whole law with, we'll get to that in a second, about the dogs. You leave a dog out in the cold and that's criminal, but we got all these homeless people laying around Chicago. But outside of that, how are these laws made, and what part do the judges play in those laws? So
I will talk from my perspective as a criminal defense attorney.
Criminal defense attorney.
Yes.
What in the past? Okay. Knows.
Not to brag, I'm just stating.
I got you. I'm gonna brag for you though. These are people on the show here that know some things. But go ahead.
So from my perspective, they acted upon the laws that were already created. So what happens is that, say, for example, a judge wants to sentence someone, but because of mandatory minimums, which are despite what the judge wants to do, the legislature in Springfield says you have no wiggle room. You have to operate this way.
Okay.
The judge is then bound within that framework of the law. The other thing is that judges, and I don't want to say bound in terms of restraint, in terms of following. If a prosecutor who is the attorney that brings criminal charges against a criminal defendant, it all depends upon what it is that's being charged. There have been several instances, one I can think of, which with the name right now, it escapes me, where the judge said in their ruling that the reason why I have to dismiss this case is because the prosecution went too low with how they charged the particular defendant. So if you had gone higher and had the courage to charge this person with the correct crime, then I would have been able to sentence them. But since you chose a lesser crime to be charged with, then that person now by law, I have to acquit them. And so it is kind of a reckoning where the judges, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, we are in a system where we have to work within. Now, if we ever want to bust out of those confines, you do have those type of judges who, or prosecutors who know what the right thing is to do. And so what they do is they speak to truth to power in their charging as well as their decision making. But the ability to make laws goes right back to Springfield. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, particularly when we're now going to talk about new laws in Illinois, for example, a lot of people don't know some laws that are changed. Are stopped or when you are fined, they don't care if you don't know, mm-hmm. because it does not matter. It is not a legal excuse. And so it's not about saying that you need to know all 200 laws that have been passed. It is about knowing that resource is out there. It's also about knowing, as it relates to judges, from the friends that I have who are judges, those that are running, those who have been retired. They look to the law of the law. They understand that the laws operate in a particular system, but at the end of the day, it is about them carrying out justice and making sure it is justice case by case. There is no unilateral or uniform. And if at any point there's something that they don't agree with, they don't necessarily take it out in a judicial fashion as a private citizen. They take themselves to the poll, or they write letters to the legislator, or they do things like that, which is what we should be doing.
Right. The
state's attorney's position, that's an elected official. We can put in or we can take out. You know, right now we have Soror Kimberly Fox, who is the
Kimberly
state's
Fox
attorney. Yes.
For those of you I don't know,
yes.
Natasha's referring to the Ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Yes.
Who will be having their Founders Day coming up here sometime soon.
It's on Saturday. Don't
we'll make sure that
yes, it's on Saturday.
It'll get shout out next week too.
You know my history.
Right.
It's on Saturday.
I got you.
But it really is just about knowing who to talk to. The reason why Springfield Democrats get away with so much is because we allow them to get away with so much. And then by the time our feelings get hurt, then it's too late, because we didn't go to the poll because it wasn't the big election. If a president isn't running, then I'll just wait. It doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. Listen, here's the thing. We're running out of time here, and I definitely want to make sure that we continue this conversation again. So for those of you that don't know, like I said, for those of you that are watching and follow Rick's Room, every second Wednesday of the month is Dear Black People. But for us to have these conversations that we need to have, right, that we need to bring to the forefront. But February, tune in on February, because every Wednesday we are having a conversation about Dear Black People, so that we can, because, you know, it's Black History Month, right? So why not do a whole month of our community and the things that we need to do better in and we need to be cognizant of. So to the both of you, thank you so much for swinging by and sharing all the knowledge that we needed to help us out in our community. And again, guys, this show is being brought to you by, you know, some of our sponsors that are continuously around. The Bureau Bar, Jeff Tim's over at the Bureau Bar is having Sunday's affair. So make sure you swing by the Bureau Bar every Sunday from 3 to close. Happy hours from 3 to 6, as well as Mom Online, Mind Over Matter. They are offering, as they always do, holistic health and wellness services that focus on healing the whole you, mind, body, and soul. Check them out at www.momonline.us. And A. Shakur Boutique, that's Miss Safina's brand too.
Yes,
Natasha, you got to check it out if you haven't already.
Who's also a soror.
She is also a soror.
Yes.
I know. Deltas, we can shout y'all out. next on the next show, I promise. As well as the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha, who will be celebrating their Founders Day as well coming up too. Y'all will hear about it next week too. But A Shakur Boutique offering 20% off of the total purchase by joining their mailing list. You can check them out at www.shopashakurboutique.com. And I think that's pretty much it for the day. So I thank you all for swinging by Rick's room and hanging out with us, to the almost and soon to be Dr. Marlena Prater, and to Natasha Robinson, Esquire. It was great having you in the room. We appreciate you all for tuning in every Wednesday night here on IntellectualRadio.com, and iHeartRadio and iTunes station, as well as on YouTube. Check us out next week. And if you are still tuning in, as you should be, check out my friend Dana Michelle over Dana Being Dana. She has her show coming up next. Always a great time, part of the IR Hump Day crew. Check her out. Y'all, thanks for hanging out with us here in Rick's room. We'll be here next week again, talking about something else. Who knows what, but we'll find something to talk about. But for now, get out.